Name one thing you saved from your last raise. Like, take a second. Search your memory. Just name one tangible thing you kept from that moment your income went up.
Yeah, when you actually force yourself to answer that, the silence in your head usually pretty deafening. I mean, the money just isn't there anymore.
It vanishes. And, if you are listening to this right now and drawing a total blank or feeling that familiar kind of sickening pit in your stomach, you really need to know that you are not experiencing a memory problem.
Right. Definitely not.
You are experiencing the diagnosis. We're looking at some incredibly fascinating behavioral economics research today, and there's this genuinely staggering number that we have to start with. $14,000.
That's a big number.
It's massive. That is the amount the average American receives in raises over a 3-year period. 14 grand of new additional money just coming into their lives.
Which is, frankly, a life-changing amount of money for most people. And for the vast majority of those individuals, nothing catastrophic actually occurred during those 3 years. There was no sudden medical emergency, no massive legal fee, no structural damage to their home.
Right.
Yet that $14,000 completely evaporates from their net worth.
It just bleeds out into the background of your life, like it disappears into a gym membership where you basically just use the steam room once a month and leave.
Exactly.
Or it evaporates into some premium, ad-free streaming tier that you totally forgot you even upgraded to. Or it quietly drains into a bottle of wine that just happens to cost $4 more than the one you used to buy a year ago. It's completely invisible, and it happens every single time your paycheck bumps up.
And the documents we are analyzing today detail the precise biological mechanisms behind this exact vanishing act. Because the most common internal narrative people have is that they are failing.
Oh, totally. You feel like you're doing everything right, you're working harder, taking on more responsibility at work, making more money, but somehow getting absolutely no further ahead.
Yes, and the crucial takeaway from the behavioral economists who study this is that your financial anxiety is not a budgeting problem. It is not a lack of willpower, and it is certainly not a character flaw.
Okay, let's unpack this. It's an operating system bug. We're basically talking about a deeply ingrained neurological phenomenon. It's like your smartphone running these background apps that secretly drain the battery without you ever opening them.
That's a perfect analogy.
Right. So what we're really diving into today is this silent upgrade cycle that your brain runs every single time your income increases, why it makes you act completely irrationally with your money, and crucially, how you can finally intercept it.
Yeah, and to really understand that silent upgrade cycle, we have to look at how the human brain processes a windfall. There's this deeply, unsettling piece of behavioral science research from 1978 out of Northwestern University. They actually tracked literal lottery winners.
Like massive jackpot winners.
Exactly. People who had won millions of dollars literally overnight. And the researchers checked in with them 1 full year after they hit the jackpot to measure their day-to-day, Tuesday morning level of happiness.
Wait, but why would their daily happiness even be a question? I mean, if you hand me $2 million today, I am going to be significantly happier on a random Tuesday a year from now.
You'd think so, right?
Yeah. My stress is gone. My debts are cleared. It defies all logic to think they wouldn't be wildly, noticeably happier.
Well, that assumes our brains process money logically. But 1 year later, those lottery winners reported daily emotional well-being levels that were completely indistinguishable from a control group of people who had won absolutely nothing.
Wait, really? Indistinguishable?
Indistinguishable. The psychological thrill of becoming a millionaire had entirely vanished from their daily experience.
I mean, it feels like an emotional flaw, almost like human beings are just inherently ungrateful.
Yeah.
But the sources point out this is entirely biological, isn't it?
Oh, 100%. It's a survival mechanism called hedonic adaptation. You see, evolutionary biology required early humans to constantly adapt to new environments just to stay alive.
Right, because if you're complacent, you die.
Exactly. If you found a great berry patch, your brain couldn't just let you sit there and be happy forever. It had to push you to find the next food source, where you'd eventually starve. Fast forward to today, and that exact same mechanism acts as a built-in happiness reset protocol.
So it's constantly resetting our baseline.
Yes. Every single lifestyle upgrade you make, the bigger apartment, the better car, the nicer dinner, it all feels absolutely extraordinary for about 90 days.
Yeah.
But then your brain recalibrates. That elevated, luxurious level simply becomes your new baseline normal.
And the old normal suddenly becomes completely intolerable. It's wild. There's actually research in our sources, specifically Daniel Kahneman's 2010 Nobel-winning research, measuring income against daily emotional well-being.
Oh, that's a brilliant study.
Yeah, and they found that beyond a certain threshold, which at the time was around $75,000 a year additional income, produces virtually zero increase in your day-to-day emotional experience. You aren't actually climbing a financial ladder, which is how society pictures progress.
Right, society loves the ladder metaphor.
Exactly, but you aren't on a ladder, you are running on a treadmill.
What's fascinating here is that it's a treadmill that automatically accelerates the exact moment your income speeds up. No matter how fast you run, the platform beneath you simply moves faster to match your pace.
That sounds exhausting.
It is. And the biology driving this is incredible. Deep in your brain, you have a region called the nucleus accumbens. It basically acts as your reward prediction center.
Okay, reward prediction.
Yeah, so when you are notified that you're getting a raise, this primitive part of your brain does not wait for you to sit down with a sensible spreadsheet. It acts like a dopamine forecast.
Oh, wow.
It instantly begins generating a profound desire for the next tier of lifestyle, often weeks before your first newly raised direct deposit even clears your checking account.
So before the money is even in your hands, your brain has already spent it emotionally. You believe the raise is your reward for hard work, but your biology has already adjusted your expectations upward.
Exactly. And then the amygdala steps in, which just complicates things even further.
The amygdala, that's the threat detection center, right?
Yes, your brain's threat detection center.
Yeah.
In a hunter-gatherer context, a sudden drop in resources meant a high probability of death. Today, your amygdala doesn't calibrate to the absolute number of dollars you earn. It calibrates to how much you earn relative to your newly established baseline.
So you don't feel rich at $100,000 a year. You just feel completely terrified of falling back to $80,000.
Yes, it becomes a floor you're afraid of.
It reminds me of stepping into a hot tub. You know, when you first get in, the water feels absolutely boiling. It's intense. But you give it 5 minutes, and your body recalibrates to the heat. Suddenly, that boiling water becomes the bare minimum required just to keep you from shivering. The raise didn't actually elevate you. It just raised the floor that your brain is now terrified of falling beneath.
That is spot on. And the thing is, that biological recalibration doesn't just stay trapped inside your head. Once your amygdala accepts that new baseline, it forces you to start physically changing your environment to match it. This translates directly into your external spending habits. There is a perfect historical example of this involving an 18th century French philosopher named Denis Diderot.
Oh, this is such a great story from the source material. So Diderot was brilliant, but notoriously broke for most of his life. And then, completely out of the blue, he receives this incredibly generous gift, a beautifully crafted scarlet dressing gown.
A spectacular piece of clothing. And logically, he should have just been thrilled, put the gown on, and gone back to writing in his study. But within months of receiving this single item of clothing, Diderot plunged himself into crushing debt.
Over a bathrobe? I mean, how does one nice piece of clothing destroy your entire financial life?
Because the scarlet gown made everything else in his life look completely inadequate by comparison.
Right.
Once he hung that beautiful gown in his study, he suddenly noticed that his old wooden desk looked incredibly shabby. So he felt compelled to buy a new desk.
Naturally.
But then the new desk made his old chair look pathetic. So he replaced the chair. Then the rug looked completely out of place against the new furniture. One by one, he replaced every single item in his physical environment just to match the perceived status of that initial dressing gown.
He ended up surrounded by objects he never originally wanted, trapped in debt by one single upgrade that he didn't even ask for in the first place. I think anthropologist Grant McCracken actually documented this in 1988 as the Diderot Effect.
Yes, exactly.
It's the phenomenon where one single upgrade sends a neurological signal that every other surrounding category must be elevated to match.
And we see this constantly in modern life. I mean, you don't just buy a nicer car. The moment you park that premium car at your apartment complex, your brain immediately registers your apartment building as outdated.
Yeah, and then your wardrobe feels embarrassing. Suddenly, the neighborhood gym you've been perfectly happy going to for 3 years feels like it's beneath your new income bracket.
It's a chain reaction.
You know, initially, when reading about this, I thought this was just a classic case of keeping up with the Joneses. But it's actually much worse than that. You aren't competing with your neighbors. You are competing with your own dressing gown.
Yes.
You are literally being held hostage by your own possessions.
That is the real danger of that first upgrade.
Yeah.
It acts as a signed authorization for your brain to completely redesign your entire financial life around a brand new baseline. It triggers an entire cascade of spending that your logical mind never formally approved.
But here's where it gets really interesting. Because if our brains are universally hardwired with this bug, this hedonic adaptation, and this Diderot cascade, someone out there must be capitalizing on it.
Oh, absolutely. Corporate architectures are built entirely around these exact biological vulnerabilities. They reverse engineered these neurological mechanisms decades ago. Take a look at modern pricing strategies.
Okay.
Every streaming service, every luxury car brand, every modern apartment complex offers essentially the exact same tiered pricing model.
The classic good, better, best options. We usually view those tiers as a matter of consumer convenience, giving us the freedom to choose what fits our budget.
Right. But that sense of freedom is completely an illusion. Behavioral economists working for these corporations calculate the precise income thresholds at which a consumer's hedonic baseline is most likely to upgrade.
Wait, they know the specific numbers.
They know exactly when you're likely to get a bump. Think about buying a car. You walk into the dealership wanting the reliable base model, but the dealership's data suggests that someone in your specific demographic recently got a promotion netting an extra, say, $300 a month. By total calculated design, the premium package, the one with the leather seats and the upgraded sound system, costs exactly $289 more per month. They aren't pricing the car based on the cost of the leather.
Oh, wow.
They're pricing the tier based on the exact size of your recent promotion. They price the next tier to absorb exactly that hedonic baseline upgrade amount.
That is genuinely terrifying. It's like playing a video game where you think you're making all these strategic, independent choices to level up your character. But the developers of the game have the cheat codes to your actual brain chemistry. They know the exact moment you're going to get a boost in resources, and they spawn an item that costs exactly that much right in front of you.
That's exactly what's happening. You are being guided step by step up a pricing ladder specifically engineered to capture every single dollar of every raise you will ever get in your entire career. From the perspective of these corporate models, we think we are making independent choices to live better, but we're not. You're simply a recurring revenue event.
A recurring revenue event? Wow. So the trap is set. We are fighting a biological treadmill on the inside, and we are navigating corporate pricing snipers on the outside. How do we actually fight back? Because clearly just telling myself I need to be more disciplined is completely useless against millions of years of evolution.
Willpower is entirely the wrong tool for this job. Relying on discipline demands that your prefrontal cortex, the rational thinking CEO part of your brain, constantly fight a war against a primitive, deeply embedded dopamine prediction loop every single day, indefinitely.
We're going to lose that.
Oh, every time. That isn't budgeting. That is attrition warfare against your own biology. And because your primitive brain never gets tired, it will win that war every single time. Bending less through sheer will is neurologically useless.
So we have to bypass willpower entirely. We need structural defenses, basically environmental restructuring to intercept the money before our brain even registers that it exists. And the first line of defense the sources suggest is basically building a firewall the moment you get a raise.
Yes, the raise firewall. The strategy is strict but incredibly effective. Before you celebrate the new salary, before you tell a single person you calculate exactly 50% of the net monthly increase, you then set up an automatic transfer to send that exact amount to a totally separate banking institution.
And it has to be a separate institution, right? Not just a savings tab that sits right next to your checking account inside the same app you open every morning. It needs to be a different login, entirely, completely out of sight.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And there's a neurological reason for that. It leverages a psychological principle called status quo bias. Your brain treats whatever balance it regularly sees in its daily environment as the permanent, reliable baseline.
So if that additional income never physically appears in your primary checking account, your hedonic adaptation literally cannot recalibrate around it. You're not just saving the raise, you are hiding it from your amygdala. The upgrade cycle can't launch from a number it hasn't seen.
Exactly. You restructure the environment so your biology never even gets triggered. But for the money that does hit your account, you need a defense mechanism against the Diderot cascade.
The Diderot audit.
Yes. Before you make a major purchase, you have to run a strict audit. You basically ask yourself one highly specific question: what will this purchase make me feel is no longer good enough?
You literally map out the cascade before you even pull out your credit card. You write down every category you will suddenly feel the urge to replace. Like if I buy this massive modern couch, I'm going to instantly hate my vintage rug.
Right.
And if I buy a new rug, the curtains are going to look incredibly cheap.
Precisely. You calculate the realistic total cost of that full cascade, everything your brain will designate for an upgrade over the following 90 days. The golden rule established by behavioral researchers is this: if the cost of the inevitable cascade exceeds 3 times the price of the original item, you must decline the anchor purchase entirely.
Decline it entirely. Because that first purchase is never just one purchase. It's the Scarlet dressing gown. It's the gateway drug to redesigning your whole life.
Which leads us to the final and perhaps most difficult structural defense. It comes from some groundbreaking research by psychologist Sonja Lyubomirsky in 2005. She was researching happiness and consumption, and her team found that the single most effective antidote to hedonic adaptation wasn't gratitude journaling, and it wasn't mindfulness, it was variety.
Variety.
Yes, specifically the intentional, deliberate interruption of your own consumption pattern.
Wait, hold on. Intentional interruption. So you're telling me the secret to feeling rich and satisfied with your life isn't earning more money, but intentionally forcing yourself to fly economy and eat leftovers.
I know it sounds completely counterintuitive, but your brain adapts to your lifestyle upgrades because they become a constant, unbroken reality. It becomes the floor. What the human brain simply cannot adapt to is inconsistency.
Okay, that makes sense.
The protocol suggests deliberately downgrading one area of your consumption for a short period every single month. If you spent 3 weeks eating at nice restaurants, you force yourself to cook basic meals at home for 2 weeks. You take the economy seat when you can easily afford premium. You drive your nice car in complete silence without the premium sound system for a few days.
Wow. You know, as you explain it, the logic clicks. It's like drinking black coffee for a week just to remember how incredibly sweet sugar actually is.
Exactly.
You aren't punishing yourself. You are temporarily depriving yourself to reset your palate.
It is a deliberate neurological recalibration. Each time you introduce that intentional contrast, you force your brain to re-register your current everyday life as the extraordinary luxury it actually is, rather than just the baseline you expect. The data is definitive here. Participants who practice this intentional variety saw a massive 40% increase in reported life satisfaction.
40%, just from adding contrast.
Yes, compared to people who just upgraded their lifestyle and stayed there permanently.
That is amazing. You aren't lowering your standard of living, you are hacking your brain into actually experiencing your standard of living. That is a profound shift in perspective. We have covered a lot of psychological ground today, so let's kind of summarize the core reality here.
Sure.
If you are making more money, but constantly feeling financial anxiety, it is not a lack of character or willpower. It is an OS bug. It's hedonic adaptation running silently in the background, upgrading your baseline upward every single time your circumstances improve.
And you cannot stop the biological mechanism, but you can retain control over your labor by intercepting it. This raises an important question, though. Every future raise you will ever receive is already spoken for by a future version of your brain that demands an upgrade, unless you make the first move.
Which means we have a direct challenge for you today, right now. Seriously. Before you move on to whatever is next in your day, open your banking app. Identify the exact net difference of your last income increase. Calculate 50% of that amount and set up an automatic transfer to move it to a totally separate account.
Yes, do it today.
Do not let your prefrontal cortex generate 17 different excuses for why you should wait until next month to do it, because every single one of those excuses is just your hedonic adaptation defending its territory. Step off the treadmill before the speed dials up again.
Taking that action is truly the only way to ensure your financial progress actually belongs to you, rather than just fueling the next tier of consumption.
Absolutely. And to leave you with one final thought to mull over, we've spent this entire deep dive looking at how our brains erase our financial progress just to keep us constantly striving, constantly hungry for more. But think about this. If our neurological baseline is hardwired to immediately adapt and demand an upgrade, the exact moment our environment improves, how is this exact same mechanism quietly sabotaging our relationships, our careers, or even our self-worth? Are we running a silent Diderot cascade on our own happiness? Think about it. We'll catch you on the next one.